Hey guys, Deslater Magic here, and I noticed something interesting about Dominaria that I did not catch as the cards were just kind of coming out, onesie, twosie, whatever. And you look at a card, completely really out of context, and you're like, wow, that looks powerful, that looks playable, I want to build a deck around that. And then once you take Dominaria as a whole, at least at like a cursory glance, you're like, oh, I get it. You look at any set and you're like, I get it. It's usually tied to the main mechanic. It's like white red vehicles. Like that's what they wanted you to build. They wanted that to potentially be a deck, and oh my god, Ixalan. Oh gee, I wonder if pirates, dinosaurs, vampires, and whoever the hell else was in that set. I wonder if that's what the developers of the set wanted us to build. Those are the gimme obvious decks where it's like, here's your synergy, here's your options. Build something more creative if you want, which is what pretty much everybody does. But if you want just a gimme deck, here you go. And half the time, it's like the topic of the Planeswalker decks anyway. So this one, red-blue wizards, duh. It's right there in your face. Like, half the cards refer to it. White, I'm not honestly sure what they were going for. Really, really good combat stuff, I guess. Like, this is like typical white. I don't know. I guess a lot of historic and legendary interaction, but, you could almost say that about all the colors. But you guys know what I mean. You look at the set and you're like, oh, I get it. This, like a ramp deck is supposed to be a thing because it got high costs that are really good and then ramp cards that specifically refer to that type of spell. And then obviously legendary. Historic equals legendary. Artifacts are included, yippee skippy, and sagas, which are also from the set. So the set kind of looked to me and to everybody with a brain to be like, play it or don't. Like, you either play Dominaria, all Dominaria, and nothing but Dominaria, or your deck is something completely different. Now, that isn't to say that you couldn't take a hyper-powerful card and just drop it into your deck. Somebody could just take Danitha, Capuchin Paragon, and be like, First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink, and Aura and Equipment spells cost one less. Cool, I'll put that in my white Aura and Equipment deck, and then just ignore the rest of Dominaria. The cards are good enough to do that. They're designed like legendary creatures and spells typically are. But it really seemed like Dominaria-centric, to everybody. So I thought, okay, I'm going to build like a mostly Dominaria deck. Because, honestly, I think people want me to. If they were going to look for a deck for me to build on this channel, they'd want it to be a Dominaria deck. If I come out with like a brand new like off-color vehicles deck, I'd be like, oh, look at this, and it's all cards from Kaladesh. Like, first of all, somebody's probably posted online or played with it or something, and secondly, a portion of you have probably already personally like played with a deck like that. It's so old, you know what I mean? And, the storyline, the history, the lore, whatever. So people just want to play with Dominaria because Dominaria is Dominaria. So I wanted to do white-black because I recalled a couple white-black hybrids being insane. There's like the legendary +2/+2 booster Arvad. There's, like Ariel. There's just crazy cards. I don't know where they all are. I looked at a couple. I'm like, that's all right. I must have gotten a little too excited about how good the deck would be. But you know what really turned me off? And this I noticed with my backup deck idea and my backup deck idea, they didn't work out. There's a problem with Dominaria, and it wasn't apparent until, honestly, I started trying to actually put together a deck. And you start to get the sense either, yeah, this is like really good, or oh my gosh, this is not going to work. I should just give up and come up with a new idea. And if you ever get to that point, yeah, don't continue to tune the deck. If it's just not going to work, the card support's not there, just don't do it. So what I noticed about Dominaria is all the good cards. There's filler, there's 1 to 2 cast, cause, blah, just, naturalize, just whatever. Just blah filler common stuff. I'm not going to count that. The really good stuff, the unique, non-reprinted Dominaria stuff, the really significant cards, mostly the rares and mythics, and the better uncommons, because there's a ton of them where you're like, yeah, that's something I want in my deck. If you take those cards, they have got to have double the converted mana cost on average as the average other set. Honestly, Ixalan was pretty high, but like pirates were reasonable. Like most of the pirates were 1, 2, or 3 costs. Couple were 4. And you got your 6 and 7, obviously, if somebody wants to make that work. But it was low. It was quick. And dinosaurs were crazy expensive, but they had tons of ramp and discount. That was the thing, is you build up to dinosaurs. Vampires, you could get plenty of good vampires and vampire-related spells for 2 and 3 mana. So they're quick, they were zippy, they were playable, they were competitive. Look at Dominaria. Like, literally go to mythicspoiler.com. Do not add the S. It's some kind of weird spam relay site. And just scroll through the cards, especially the mythics and rares. This has got to be the highest cast cost set I've ever seen. I mean, the X spells are only good if you pound a lot of mana into them, so I'd consider them 5 to 7. Then you got like Karn's Temporal Sundering. Well, that's lovely, but it costs 6. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, it costs 5. Oh, this is just rough. I mean, Urza's Ruinous Blast, 5. Lyra, 5. Nahu, 4. Demon Lord Belzenlock, that card sucks, 6. Even the Planeswalkers are high. I mean, look at Nissa and I want to say other Nissa. They were both dirt cheap. Oh, I think there was a 3-cost Jace too, actually. But not in this set. I mean, you just look at anything. Everything good is 4, 5, and 6. I mean, there's like History of Benalia for 3. It's like, okay, cool. But that's like kind of not the norm. I mean, even Phyrexian Scriptures, besides being slow because it's a saga, you're looking at a 4-cost spell. I mean, it's lovely. You could put that together with all kinds of other crazy stuff, graveyard interaction, whatever. But your whole damn deck's going to cost 3, 4, 5, and 6. I've lost games because my deck does nothing if you don't get to 3. It's a solid deck, the synergy is there, the power level is through the roof, but if you get stuck at 2 mana, you can do nothing. The game is over. I hate decks like that. That's why really good solid 2 costs, either control spells or good stall or basic synergy, is very important to all the top tier decks. But it's just, I mean, looking through these, I almost should have included like just me scrolling through these, but it would be a little too hard to read. You'd have to blow it up to full screen, whatever. But, go check it out for yourself, because there's a couple like Song of Freya-Elise that costs 2, but that card's completely out of control. Other than that, like Eldest Reborn costs 5, Evra costs 6, Josu costs 4. It's not that high, but it's pretty high, and honestly, he's got a kicker. That's the other thing. Anything that's low has a kicker, and if you really want to get tons of value out of it, you need the kicker, which will bring it up to like 9 mana. I mean, you have to be playing a ramp deck to play that. All the best angels are overpriced. What else is new? I mean, it's like angels and sphinxes. What have you come to expect? That's just what they do. They cost too much mana. Just really unique stuff. Lich's Mastery, 6. I mean, it's 6 damn mana. Like, you're not going to get that out regularly. Now, if you ramped up into 6 or you had a stall control deck, you got there, you're running 24 lands, cool. It's such a pattern that your entire deck, or just too much of it, will cost too much mana. So this is really bad because it's going to affect sales. I mean, it's cool in that you can take, because it'll be 7 sets legal, and mix them together and come up with something really new and unique that nobody's seen before. It's better than just, I'm going to build the blood deck. I'm going to build the dinosaur deck. I'm going to build the vampire deck. I'm going to build the pirate deck. And since that was the whole set last time, I mean, there was so many variations that there was no, the vampire deck. In fact, mono white, mono black, and white black mix were all highly competitive and very different from each other. But I do like people being creative. It's just, this isn't going to sell quite as well as people are thinking. I mean, you look at the powerful cards, and the only thing this set has going for it right now, in my opinion, is a bunch of these cards are just like killer for Modern and Commander. Oh, that and collectors might be like, oh, I remember that. Oh, that's my favorite character. Oh, I have all the cards with blah on that or whatever. I'm a big fan of Teferi, so I want every card with him on the artwork. Or I just like Charlie Murphy, so I want that version of the artwork. You can't deny it, okay? It looks like him. But seriously, I mean, you look at the 1, 2, 3 costs, they're all just filler, they're blah, they're basic synergy, they're just, oh, here, have another knight, have another human, have another zombie, have another goblin, nothing too special, whatever, blah. And then you start looking at all the best cards, and they're all 4, 5, 6. I mean, seriously, with very few exceptions. I don't think it's enough exceptions to build a deck. So the consequences of this are pretty obvious. I mean, you build a deck, it's hyper powerful, but it's slow because you have to work your way up. And even with green, the most rampy color right now, especially in Dominaria, you've got to leave them on the battlefield, which in the meta right now is not going to happen. I mean, I don't want to go into details about what beats what and stuff. It's just, there's a lot of control, there's a lot of board wipes, there's a lot of speed rush, and none of those are friendly to you keeping mana dorks on the field, or a lot of buildup, a lot of auras. I'd say equipment, but okay, that floats around between creatures, not a big deal. But with anything else, I mean, you cast an aura on something and then they use one card, one creature destruction spell to get rid of 2 of your cards. That's not good. That is never good. The same with, oh, I got a trigger. I cast this spell and this and did this little combo. Now this creature has 3 or 4 counters on it. Cool. 1 kill spell, boom. They might as well have gotten rid of 2 creatures because, 4 counters? Are you kidding me? They got a lot more value for the removal because you're playing a susceptible deck. And you know, I'm not saying like, oh, everybody build a swarm deck because swarm decks die with sweepers and board wipes. You know, you get more value out of that then. But these build-up decks where they're gradual, if somebody's playing something fast or control-y, they are going to beat you. And that's kind of what people are playing right now. So I'm a little concerned. I mean, it's not like the end of the world, I'm just a little concerned. So here's what happens when a set just costs too much. I've seen it before. It's happened a couple times where the best cards are just too damn high. And the standard meta is just too fast for it. You get these absolute blowout games where the person feels like they did nothing, even if they weren't technically mana screwed. If the stars didn't align just right and they couldn't get to 6 mana for their, you know, major interactive spells, oh boy, and even getting to 5. I mean, getting to 5 is not a given by a long shot. So I have a feeling a lot of Dominaria stuff is going to get absolutely stomped by whatever is, you know, competitive right now. Very much of it, actually. I don't see anything in Dominaria that can compete with Red Rush. The closest I have to something that looks like it would work is Blue-Red Wizards, because a lot of them cost 2 and 3. And a lot of the spells cost like 1. I mean, it's all about cost reduction, swarm synergy, card draw, you know, keep it going, keep it going. Plus, they're both kind of control-y colors. So, I mean, it doesn't mean I'll be building it. I still want to build something either mono-white, mono-black, or black-white. But, boy, I mean, Ariel's 4, Arvad is 5. Ugh, I don't know. And then there's cards like Shauna. Shauna's absolutely insane and she costs 2. So I'm not saying the whole set, it's just is enough left to be playable, because a lot of these cards are just going to be written off and played in Commander. They're just too darn high. And the problem is they printed a ton of power, very unique, very powerful stuff, and they made it appropriately costed. I'm not saying a card that costs 5 should have cost 3. It would have been disastrous if some of these cards cost 3. Like if you took Lich's Mastery and made it cost 3, I can't even imagine that. I mean, Evra, Halcyon Witness, no. I mean, do you think that Urgoros, the empty one, would be fair below 6 mana? I think it would be disastrous even at 5 mana. You put him at 3 and even lower his stats, it's basically Shimmy Inspector on steroids. I mean, you just, well, okay, not quite. It's a little bit worse than that, but his 2 effects combined are pretty good. So that's wonderful. They're all appropriately costed except for a couple anomalies where they're really flirting with them being too cheap. But on the whole, you know, it makes sense. Even like Final Parting. I mean, yeah, you really wouldn't want that costing less than 5. But everything costs too much. At the end of the day, the damn set has to be playable. I mean, put in some Lobby stuff that's kind of cool. So, I don't know, if you guys came up with some kind of idea and you're like, no, this looks really zippy, it's cheap, it's fast, and it works, here's my deck idea. Not finalized, but it's at least an idea, I'm working on it, cool. I'm sure we'd all love to hear about it, so leave that down in the comments section. Otherwise, if you've noticed this too, I'd love to hear about it. Or if you have any combinations where you're like, nah, just grab 3 cards from Dominaria, and then the rest are from like another set or mixed sets or whatever, and you're like, yeah, this works. That's more like what we're all looking for, basically. So I didn't want to be too doom and gloom. I mean, like I said, it's not the end of the world. It just really looks bad, but we'll see what happens if somebody makes something work or somebody takes one of the, you know, 3 cost sets a little overpowered and does something with it. That'll be interesting. But until the release, I'll see you guys next video.